This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. Later this afternoon, I shall leave for Turkey to be present at the 75th anniversary of the Gallipoli landings tomorrow.
Mr. Philip Oppenheim.
The Prime Minister, when she gets the chance, remind Chancellor Kohl and President Mitterrand that their countries have steadfastly refused fully to open their markets in areas such as telecommunications, transport and air travel. And would she further take the opportunity of reminding them that it is complete nonsense to talk about political and economic union when you haven't yet even achieved a fully open internal market?
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend makes his own point very well. I agree with him. It is far better to complete the tasks that we already have in hand, particularly the completion of the single market, and seeing that there is fair competition throughout the community, and seeing that the directives for the single market are equally enforced throughout the community. When it comes to other matters, such as political union, first I think it's best to define it, because the word means very different things to very different countries. And if it goes to the root of different institutions, we'd have quite a lot to say ourselves, including the fact that the powers of national parliaments must continue to be conserved, and that the community only does those things which the community can do better than individual countries.
Mr. Speaker, following her inquiries, does the Prime Minister think that it is true that Walter Summers Limited and her honourable friend from Bromsgrove were told by the Department of Trade and Industry that the export order to Iraq did not need a licence?
Mr. Speaker, I made the position absolutely clear with regard to export licences for the gun in my answers to the right honourable gentleman last week. My honourable friend, the member for Bromsgrove, has provided some very helpful details. And officials are matching these up with their own records and recollections. The investigations are in hand by the Customs and Excise. That is the proper authority to find out the facts. They are doing that and getting all of the documents and all of the facts. It is then for them to make a decision as to how to proceed. In the meantime, I think we should congratulate the Customs and Excise on intercepting the parts of the gun before they reached Iran.
Mr. Kinnock.
I'm grateful to the Prime Minister, and I certainly warmly endorse her congratulations, which are well earned, to the Customs and Excise. Whilst the inquiries are going on, can I put it to the Prime Minister that if a company that has experience in these matters says to a government department, we have doubts about an order, we are willing to withdraw from that order, we're willing to carry on with that order, or we're willing to have it traced, what advice does the Prime Minister think such a company should receive? What advice does the Prime Minister think such a company should receive from a responsible government department?
The first advice to any investigating authority is to find out all the facts. All the facts. All the facts. That is the task of the Customs and Excise, who, being the authority which decides whether or not any prosecution should be made, is the investigating authority. All the facts and find them first.
Mr. John Bowis.
I refer my honourable friend to the reply which I gave some moments ago.
Mr. Bowis.
As my right honourable friend had time to read the Sunday Times published review of the top European companies, which showed that in the top 50, 2 came from Germany, 8 from France, and 28 from this country. Will my right honourable friend find time to congratulate each and every one of those British companies? And will she use all her persuasive powers to get the tiniest little cheer on behalf of British achievement from the Leader of the Opposition?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I saw the report in the Sunday Times and gladly offer our congratulations to the top 50 companies who are quite excellent and give a great lead to Europe. also augurs well for the policies of this government, which do not want protectionism for this country because we can compete in the markets of the world, and also, in fact, implement all the directives in the common market. We hope that others will follow our example.
Mr. Roy Biggs.
Speaker, is the Prime Minister aware that families in Northern Ireland have to pay £5 to £6 per week more for energy because we're cut off from the national gas grid in Great Britain? Is she aware that there is a proposal presently funded to the tune of 100 million by the EEC to pipe gas from Morecambe Bay to Dundalk in the Irish Republic? What will she do to ensure that gas for the Irish Republic from Morecambe Bay is routed through Northern Ireland?
Mr. Speaker, as the honourable gentleman knows, the whole town gas industry in Northern Ireland was closed down many years ago. It was not economic. And therefore it would be enormously expensive to start it up again. We did consider it a few years ago when there was a possibility of obtaining gas from Kinsale in the Republic. We came to the conclusion that it was just not worth the colossal expenditure, and I think that would be our conclusion about the present proposal.
Mr. Keith Raffan.
Number 3, sir.
3. I defer my honourable friend to reply, which I gave some moments ago.
Well, may I, before I answer, may I ask honourable members not to carry out conversation from below the gangway? It's very disruptive.
Look at him, he's like a child. He's like a schoolgirl. Look at him, he's giggling.
Would my right honourable friend agree that a Scotsman sitting for a Welsh seat can face as great a dilemma about which team to support as an Asian living in Bradford? Would she further agree that the true test of somebody's loyalty to their country is the contribution they make to it, not which cricket side they cheer? And that we can look forward to as valuable a contribution from the Hong Kong Chinese who come here as we have long had from the West Indians, the Ugandan Asians, and many, many others.
Mr. Speaker, I gladly...
Order. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I gladly pay tribute to the contribution made by all communities to the national life of this country. And with regard to the Hong Kong bill, I'm very pleased it reached a second reading, had a good second reading, and I'm also glad that the Labour Party's squalid, cynical and opportunistic behaviour and opportunistic behaviour over that bill has been so widely recognised for what it was.
Eric Marklew.
Would the Prime Minister join with me in condemning a group of local general practitioners who banned constituents of mine from the future list because they lived on 2 council estates? Those doctors said that the people who lived on those estates were difficult and expensive patients to treat. Is it not a fact that that proves what we've been saying on this side of the House, that the general practitioner contract will mean a 2-tier service, a well-financed and well-organised one for the rich, and a second-rate and a second-class one for the rest?
No, Mr. Speaker. The honourable gentleman is aware of the details of that case, knows that there was no new fact about it, that that particular practice had in fact been pursuing its ordinary policy with regard to which area from which it took its patients, and those council estates were quite a way away from that particular practice. Moreover, those doctors have written a letter, a public letter, and made it quite clear that there was nothing unusual, but they were, in fact, pursuing their ordinary policy, and there was nothing due from the reform of the National Health Service in the action they took.
Mr. David Gilroy Bevan.
Number 4, sir.
I refer my honourable friend to the reply which I gave some moments ago.
Mr. Bevan.
Would my right honourable friend not agree that what Britain needs is a high wage, high productivity economy which will, by the employment of this high productivity and the payment of high wages, produce the kind of industry that we require? And with regard to this, that the settlement at Longbridge proves that management, by so employing large sums of capital, can create even more jobs, highly paid, round the clock, and in this case produce fine motor cars.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I agree with my honourable friend that high wages must be earned by high productivity, hopefully with something over to reduce prices for the consumer. I congratulate Rover on the agreement it has reached, where we shall get for the first time in this country in vehicle manufacture continuous working for 24 hours a day, continuous operation for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It will lead to 1,200 extra jobs, increased productivity. Rover is rapidly becoming one of the most efficient manufacturers in this country, producing about 20 vehicles per employee, compared with some 6 in 1979. Yes, they're to be congratulated, thoroughly congratulated, and I hope we shall get more sales at home and more exports.
Matthew Taylor.
Number 5, sir.
I refer the honourable gentleman to the reply which I gave some moments ago.
Taylor.
With the number of patients going for eyesight tests down by a third since the introduction of charges, and with 1 in 5 opticians under threat of closure as a result of that, indeed one has closed in my constituency just today, would the Prime Minister now review the workings of the introduction of charges for eye tests and at least help all old age pensioners who are that group most at risk from eye disease, and in some cases sight-threatening and indeed life-threatening eye diseases, and of course who are also, by and large, those least able to pay?
No, Mr. Speaker. The number of eyesight tests was up before the charges came in, quite naturally, so it's not surprising that they're down since the charges came in. As the honourable gentleman knows, there are special arrangements made for those who either have particularly bad eyesight or are related to those who have something like glaucoma. There are special arrangements made for those already.
Mr. Robert Rhodes James.
Is the Prime Minister aware that those of us who have very close connections, family connections with the Gallipoli campaign of 1915 are very glad that she is going to the commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the bandits? And will she also emphasize that Anzac Day, like for the Australians and New Zealanders, as Remembrance Sunday for us, is a very sacred day when blessedly party politics are forgotten. And we remember those who served and suffered so we may live in freedom and peace.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very grateful to my honourable friend, and may I thank him for letting me have his own book on the Gallipoli campaign. We are going not only to remember our own dead from all parts of the United Kingdom, but also especially to pay tribute to those from Australia and New Zealand who played such a glorious part in that battle, and we shall all commemorate it in precisely the spirit which my honourable friend used in his words.
Margaret Burnham.
I refer the honourable lady to the reply which I gave some moments ago.
Would the Prime Minister acknowledge that the Customs and Excise Department cannot be expected to decide which government department is responsible for the Iraqi gun affair? Will she therefore now tell the House which government department, which minister is responsible?
Yeah. Customs and Excise, in a case like this, are the prosecuting authority. It is not a matter for government departments to decide whether there has been anything wrong in the application or not. It is for Customs and Excise. They cannot carry that out until, in fact, they have completed the investigation in all legal matters.
Order! Order! Well, the Prime Minister must have a chance to answer. Prime Minister.
In all legal matters, as I said to the Right Honourable Gentleman, it is as well to find out all the facts, and particularly so before Customs and Excise can reach a conclusion.
10-minute rule motion, Mr. David Ames. Order. Point of order from Mr. Tam.